What's up guys, it's Teddy and I hope you guys are doing great. Nick, you're right, making alchemy recipes can be confusing and the materials needed are just as bad. So today we're going to be looking at alchemy materials and where you can find them. As always, if you guys find this helpful, be sure to smash that like button and be sure to stay until the end for a bonus guide that could make you millions of silver. If you haven't watched my guide on alchemy and how to level it up, I suggest you click on the card in the top corner and watch that really fast. With that out of the way, let's dive right into this. Blood. Let's discuss it. You can use a fluid collector on most animals and monsters. One great thing about blood is it's interchangeable, meaning you can change wolf blood with rhino blood or weasel with fox. In blood group 1, you have wolf blood. This can be found at Wolf Hills near Ulvia and in Balanos River mouth. Next is flamingo blood, which can be found around Naga Marsh. Next on the list is going to be rhino, which can be found outside Omar Lava Cave. And lastly on the list of group 1 is cheetah dragon blood, which can be found north of Stonetail Ranch. Now, starting with group 2 of the blood, we have deer. Deer can be found south of bear, which is the best spot. That's where I usually go for it. Next on the list is sheep, which can be found in Lynch Ranch, which is, again, another great place to find sheep. Third in the list is goat blood, which everyone knows you can find in abundance over here at Goat Mountain. Continuing the list, we have pig blood, which can be found a little northeast of Northern Wheat Plantation. Then we have good old ox blood, which can be found outside of Altanova, just right there in front of the gate. Lastly on the list is Waragon blood, and you can find these out over here in the Waragon nest in Medea. Starting with blood group 3, we have weasel blood, which can be found in Wolf Hills near Ulvia and Balanos River mouth. Next, we have fox blood, which can also be found in the same Wolf Hills near Ulvia and Balanos Riverhead. Raccoons can be found near Northeast Calpheon here in the corner. There's not really much, but hey, it's something, right? Looking at blood group 4, we have bear blood, which can be found south of Longtree Sentry Post. Next is troll blood, which can be found east of Euphoria. Lastly in the group is ogres, which can be found in Mancha Forest. And finally, blood group 5. Starting out, we have worm blood, which can be found in the Northern Wheat Plantation. Next is lizard blood, which can be found in the Glish Swamp areas. Second to last on the list is bat blood, which can be found in the Northern Wheat Plantation. And lastly, cuckoo bird blood, which can be found north of Alejandro's farm. Now, for any other blood you can find on the central market, and like scorpion blood, which you can't, you can easily come out here to the desert and find scorpions real easy. Crystals. These can be manually gathered, or you can have workers gather them. If you're leveling your gathering, I suggest manually gathering for the added experience, and smelting these can quickly level up your processing. You can get rough translucent crystals from the copper ore node at Goblin Cave. Next you have the rough red crystal at the tin ore node at Karudo Cave and the zinc ore node at the Ancient Fissure. Next is the rough mud crystal, which can be found at the iron ore node in southern Siena. Then you have the rough green crystal, which can be found at the tin ore node at Rudham Outstation. And lastly, you got your rough black crystals, which can be found at the iron ore node in the abandoned iron mine. New additions to the list include rough violet crystal, which you can get at the Crescent Shrine mining node. Lastly, if you have Alchemy Skilled 1, combining 50 translucent crystals, mud crystals, black crystals, blue crystals, and violet crystals will make rough opulent crystals. Oh, these pesky little fruits. These are obtained by breeding crops instead of harvesting them. You can find these also by gathering herbs randomly, and just keep in mind they have a low drop rate. These include the Fruit of Abundance, the Fruit of Crimson Flame, Fruit of Destruction, Fruit of Enchantment, Fruit of Magic Power, Fruit of Nature, Fruit of Perfection, and finally, Fruit of the Sun. And if you guys know if you need to plant certain fruits or vegetables to get certain fruit of magic or whatever, please do comment down below and let me know. I'm curious. You can find these everywhere. You can also have your workers gather them, and sometimes it's more efficient to do this. And if you have some spare silver, you can also buy them from a vendor too. To buy herbs from the vendor, if you have 500 silver per herb, head over to Kelfion over here and just buy them from this vendor. Fireflake flowers can be found on the top of the hill west of Florin, right over here. Silk honeygrass can be obtained from the Longleaf Sentry Post or Karanda's Ridge. Manually, you can come over here to same place as the Fireflake flowers west of Florin too. Using your workers on the northern plane of Serendia node, you can obtain Silver Azalea. Using your workers on the Kron Castle node, you can get Sunrise herbs, or if you head south of Florin and on that same hill as the Fireflake flowers, you can obtain manually. Lastly, weeds can be obtained just by gathering using your hands. Oh, mushrooms. Same with the crystals, you can have your workers gather your mushrooms from the nodes, or you can go to the nodes and gather them yourself. Keep in mind, Olivia dailies reward you mushrooms for completing certain dailies, and finally, you can farm them from your garden as well. Starting out, you have arrow mushrooms, which you can get from the Forest of Plunder, cloud mushrooms that you can get from southern Sienna, dwarf mushrooms that you can get from northern Sienna, and Glish Swamp. Emperor mushrooms you can get from the Rude Tree Stub and Glitani Cave. You can get fortune teller mushrooms from Iwa's Hill and Coastal Cliff. Ghost mushrooms can be found at Marie Cave. Sky mushrooms can be found at Eric Shrine, and finally tiger mushrooms from Bree Tree Ruins and Kamalsilv Temple. Now there are some mushrooms that have to be manually gathered, such as the Amata mushrooms, which can be found here at Kurudo Cave, ancient mushrooms that can be found here in Glitani Cave, bluffer mushrooms, which are here around Heidel, fog mushrooms can be found here at Marie Cave. You can also find hump mushrooms here too. And lastly, you have the truffle mushrooms here west of Eastern Gateway. Sadly, you will be using mainly workers to get your powder since there aren't any real ways to gather it by hand. There are also dailies in Olivia that you can get powders as reward. Having your workers use Keplin Quarry will give you Powder Crevice. Powder Darkness can be mined from the Coastal Cave. Powder Earth can be mined from Bear Riverhead. Powder Flame can be gotten from the Coastal Cave. And finally, Powder Time from the Glish Swamp. Oh, traces. To get these, it requires you to talk to the node manager and spend usually 35 energy to unlock it. Afterwards, you have to send a worker to go ahead and mine said node. Click the card in the top corner if you want to see the nodes on all the traces. I'm going to exclude this because I did mention them in my node guide. However, there are some weapons that you can smelt to get certain traces, such as smelting down Barris weapons gives you traces of battle, demi-human weapons gives you traces of savagery, Callus gives you violence, Kreia gives you despair, Selith gives you death, and Yuria weapons give you trace of ascension. Now let's get on to tree byproducts. These can be mined using your workers or if you have skilled 5 or above with your gathering, you can do this manually. And as always, Olivia does reward tree byproducts for completing their dailies. These byproducts are Bloody Tree Knot, which can be mined from Trient Forest, Elric Shrine, and Stonetail Wasteland. Next on the list is Monk's Branch. These can be mined from Oza's Pass, Forest of Seclusion, and Serendia Shrine. Next is Old Tree Bark. These can be mined from Medea Northern Highlands. Second to last on the list, Red Tree Lumps, which can be mined from Old Dandelion, Quaint Hill, and Northern Plains of Serendia. And lastly, Spirit Sleeve, which can be mined from Goblin's Cave and Belenos Forest. Tree Saps is pretty easy. All of your saps can be acquired from Olivia / Florin area, with the exception of cedar trees and certain trees native to Medea. For that though, coming over here east of Heidel, you can get Assia sap, cedar sap, and white cedar sap. So, you made it this far. Now, let me give you that bonus guide. When I mentioned bloods, you have a great selection of bloods that you can make here that will get you fundamentally millions if you can make enough. Clown's blood, legendary beast blood, sinner's blood, tyrant's blood, and wise man's blood. Now for oils, you have oil of corruption, oil of fortitude, oil of regeneration, oil of storms, and oil of tranquility. These can be made all at skilled 1. And finally, gem polisher, leather glaze, metal solvent, and plywood hardener all can be used to process down materials to better materials. And with all that out of the way, if this guide has helped you, be sure to drop down and tickle that like button, and I shall see you guys in the next Black Desert Online video.